friends. Oh my gosh, I had a freak out with the countdown timer. Did you see that? I pushed the wrong buttons and it freaked out. I'm so sorry, but that was actually kind of funny too. Hopefully you found it amusing while you were waiting for the countdown to come all the way to 0. Well, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me today for Top 5 Friday. We are going to be talking about my top 5, or my top 5 favorite books on the topic of one another ministry. Are you ready to chat about it? I'm excited. I also want to let you know that for those of you who are watching and are engaging, you have the opportunity. This is something I just decided to do this morning. You have the opportunity to pick one of the 5 books I'm presenting today and win it in a giveaway. So what is the requirement to get entered to win this broadcast giveaway? Well, it is going to be your participation. So I am keeping track of comments. If you're here, I have no idea who's watching. I just know there are people who are watching. So comment, say hello. I will put comments up on the screen like I did when some of you first joined the video. You'll be able to see them there. And the more comments you make during the broadcast, then the more chance you have of picking one of these top 5 book recommendations. So whoever comments the most, I will do a quick, it's totally impromptu giveaway, but I'll do a quick scan of the comments, and whoever was engaging in commenting the most during the broadcast will have a chance to pick one of the books. So, Kim is back. Hello, Kim. I'm so glad that you joined me today. Kim was here with us last week when I was sharing my top 5 books, Christian books on the topic of depression. And yeah, Kim Kim, it could be your turn. Now, Kim, if you are still not in the United States, because last week you were in Ukraine, I don't know if you're still there, but I won't be able to mail you books. However, I will still try to get you a Kindle version or an electronic copy. So I will try to do my best to still let you participate. Those of you who are watching who maybe are not in the continental US where I could mail you a book, I will most certainly, as long as you have access to have an electronic book or download, then I will be sure to get that to you as best I can. So for those of you who are new or do not know me, my name is Christine Chappell. I am a podcast host for Kim is still here in Ukraine. Awesome. Thank you. Yes, that's so awesome to know that there's someone so far away who is tuning in. So thank you, Kim, for letting us know that you haven't gone anywhere since last week. But my name is Christine Chappell. I am the podcast host for IBCD's Hope and Help podcast. And there we have biblical conversations about life's challenging problems. But today, this Top 5 Friday is not affiliated with IBCD. It's just my own personal production as I'm trying out new production software. And hey, if you watched the countdown, you see, I'm really trying this out, and I made a huge mistake by changing the clock to read something like 2 hours of a countdown. And so I fixed it, but I guess that's kind of funny, right? To watch the bloopers as they happen. That's what happens with live production. But so yeah, this is my own opportunity to not only practice some of these new tools that I'm hoping to implement over at IBCD very soon, but then also just to let you know about really what I think are helpful biblical resources that pertain to some of life's most challenging problems. And if we're honest, one another ministry can be difficult. It can be a hard problem to know how to care for other people well. I do want to make a disclaimer. This particular broadcast, and I did this so that I could be able to offer more resources to you. This particular podcast or broadcast, the resources I'm offering you are not necessarily biblical counseling resources in terms of training specifics for biblical counseling, although you will find that books on one another care link. I mean, so we're not talking necessarily about counseling theology or even methodology to some extent. But I'm sure once you see the books I'm recommending, you'll start to get the idea. These can be applicable to just the everyday Christian who just wants to know how to love their family members, their neighbors, in a way that glorifies God and is also compassionate and biblical. But counselors who are in practice will also find these resources probably familiar, but helpful as well. If they're not familiar to you, then I definitely recommend you check them out. Want to let you know too, again, a reminder about the giveaway. So the more you engage during the chat, the more whoever engages the most on comments will be the one who can pick from one of these 5 books that I am about to share. So if you are in one another ministry, you want to grow in your ability to help people, to care for them, or if you just like talking about biblical resources like I do, this is the place for you this morning on this Top 5 Friday. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get us started with my first recommendation. Oh, I did it backwards. Okay, well, this is going to be the first one, even though it was meant to be the last one. So that's okay. Maybe I shouldn't mess with the order because I have it specific. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I just gave you a preview, but we're going to go to the very first one, which I have it, Instruments in the Redeemer's Hands. So excuse me for that. You just got a little bit of a teaser, but I'll explain why I'm going through this order in just a moment. But this is my first recommendation. If you have read Instruments in the Redeemer's Hands, People in Need of Change, Helping People in Need of Change by Paul David Tripp, I'd love for you to comment and let me know what your thoughts are about it. This particular book I was introduced to. Actually, I was introduced to the study guide, and now this book was published by P&R Publishing, but then New Growth Press put out a much more approachable size. This particular book is very, very meaty. If you have the paperback, you know it's very hefty. But the study guide was actually what I got introduced to a couple years into just my being a new Christian. And so this book, the very first part of it was so encouraging to me, I think, because the first half of the book really tackles how we ourselves are people in need of change. And as a new Christian, I'm like, yes, this is helping me to understand my heart and how the gospel shapes and molds us, and sin and sanctification process, and how do we go about changing and growing into Christ-likeness. And then when it got to the other half of the book, that's more of, actually interacting with people, I don't remember the 4. If you know that, hey, here's a quiz. If you know the 4 components, I think that are addressed in terms of I don't know, maybe I'll give you a minute. He has 4 in this book, if you know it. 4 areas where we enter into people's lives and try to help them. Kim is saying this was one of the first books I read when I was beginning in my biblical counseling training. Exactly. You'll find if you are going through a certification program, or even at IBCD, there's a point in the process where you have required reading, and this book is on that list of required reading, among many, many others that I'll probably end up recommending at some Top 5 Friday in the future. But what I was looking for this book, I think he talks about this may not be the right order, know, love, speak, do. I think those are the 4. You'll have to get the book to find out. But those particular chapters were where, as a new believer, I became very overwhelmed. Because I'm like, I don't think I'm ready for that yet. It was very intimidating. So I don't necessarily recommend this book for the new believer, although I would say that the study guide is much more approachable. And you can find all those resources at Amazon. And in fact, while I'm talking right now, I will go ahead and copy and paste here in the comments the link to this particular book. So you are welcome to check it out. If you have not already, I'd say it's a classic and extremely helpful. So definitely be sure to check that out. All right, we're going to go to the next recommendation. I'm so out of order with these guys. That's okay though. So Loving Messy People, The Messy Art of Helping One Another Become More Like Jesus by Scott Mail. If you are connected with IBCD, you know that, or probably know that we just released a brand new training curriculum at IBCD that is based on Scott's Loving Messy People book. The training curriculum is called Intro to Messy Care and Discipleship. It is designed 8 different recorded video sessions, teaching sessions that also are followed by roundtable discussions. A diverse group of people helpers, counselors, pastors, just everyday people who make up the local church talk about one another care in a roundtable discussion. And then there's a workbook that goes along with it. And so I'll share that information a little bit later. But what I really like about Loving Messy People is there are a lot of, what I notice, a lot of similarities in terms of the approach between this book and Paul David Tripp's book. But again, I would say Scott's is probably a bit more approachable for the layperson, for someone who's maybe not experienced in any kind of formal training for one another care. I'd say they're probably about the same size. Maybe Scott's is a little bit shorter. Both of them very, very excellent. Have you read this book? Have you read, Kim already said she had read Instruments in the Redeemer's Hands. That was one of the first books she read in her biblical counseling training. Have you read Scott's book? Is this new on your radar? Have you heard about it? This is put out by Shepherd Press. And in fact, I interviewed Scott on the Hope and Help podcast last year. I will go ahead and copy and paste that link to you. If you want to learn more about this particular book, the best thing I can do is point you to this broadcast or this podcast conversation, because we talk about it in much greater detail than what I'm able to do here. So again, just with this Top 5 Friday, my name is Christine Chappell, and what I'm trying to do is just simply get you resourced and equipped to grow in your one another ministry, whatever capacity that looks like. And so let me go ahead and pull that comment down. So if you've read Scott's book, let me know. If you haven't, be sure to check it out. And you can also get that on Amazon. I will copy and paste that link here for you as well. So hopefully that's helpful and takes some of the guesswork out of trying to find all of these resources. So let's go ahead. We've got 2 out of our 5. So let's go ahead and go to the next one, which is I love this book. I love this book for a number of reasons, but if you know Ed Welch and if you are like his writing and his approach to one another care, then you will absolutely read this book and say, this has Ed Welch fingerprints all over. Like, this is Ed Welch classic. And so side by side, walking with others in wisdom and love. And this is another one of those books I read early on in my walk with Christ, and my, knowing that I had a desire to want to mature in my ability to actually do one another care and discipleship, but not really knowing how, and then being so young in faith myself. This book is a really great way just to get even introduced to the concept of, if you are needy, that qualifies you to help someone. It's like our neediness is what qualifies us to walk alongside those who are also needy. And he spends a good amount of time in the beginning of the book addressing that and just helping to create a basis of, look, we are all in need of help. And you'll see all of these books, for the most part, have that theme woven into it. Is first, we're addressing our own need, right? Because anytime we're approaching one another care or one another ministry, we want to be mindful of our own heart and our own attitudes, our motives, our desires, our walk with Christ before we go out and then try to apply biblical truths and encouragements to those around us. So just to be mindful of what's going on in our own heart before we try to minister to the hearts of others. And so this particular book does a great job. I will also say that shortly after this book released, Ed followed it up with a book called, I believe, Caring for One Another. And I don't have the title. It's not part of my recommendations, although I'm kind of giving it as a recommendation because they broke it down in that book to super practical. So I think the subtitle is something like 8 ways to grow in our relationships, or 8 ways to engage hurting people. There's 8 ways. So I think it's designed for, an 8-week small group study. And so you can check that out. I think it's called Caring for One Another. If you just search Ed Welch on Amazon or wherever you get your books, I'm sure that you can find it. But that also, they did produce, I believe, at CCEF, a video study guide with that particular book to be used in a small group context. And so that's another resource for you if you want it. And so we've got 3 now. I did Instruments in the Redeemer's Hands. Let's see, I'll see if I can get fast with my graphics. So we did Instruments in the Redeemer's Hands. If you're just joining us and you've read this book, I'd love for you to comment. If you're just joining us and you didn't hear us in the beginning, we're doing a giveaway. And so the people who comment the most during this broadcast are the one who is the winner will get a chance to select one out of these 5 books, and I'll send it to you. Whether you are in the continental United States, you'll get a paperback copy, or if you are abroad, I will try to get you a digital copy. I think that works, right? To be able to do that. So, and then we talked about Loving Messy People. I included, Scott is the only author I've interviewed on the podcast for the resources I'm sharing today. So I only have that particular podcast to recommend to you, but you can check it out if you're interested in that book. Side by Side with Ed Welch. My personal favorite. Have you read that? I'd love to hear if you have any feedback on it. It's short, approachable, and not even necessarily for biblical counseling. I mean, just for wanting to grow in our ability to walk with people in our local church who are hurting or going through a problem. We're just in a discipleship relationship. And then the next one I'm recommending is 31 Ways to Be a One Another Christian, Loving Others with the Love of Jesus. And that is by Dr. Stuart Scott and Andrew Jin. This particular book I'm recommending because, and I got a thumbs up. So somebody who's watching gave a thumbs up. Let me know. Have you read this book? I want to know, have you read it? What do you think about this recommendation? Are you interested? Or comment, because those who are commenting the most will get a chance to pick one of these books in the giveaway. So I'm recommending this particular book because I think it does a really great job of making it practical. What does me being a one another Christian look like today? What can I be mindful of or conscious of today to put into practice? And so that's what I love about this book, is that the chapters are short. So there's 31 chapters, very, very short. Goes into a scripture, a small bit of teaching and practical application, and then it basically says, go get them. Go out there and become a one another Christian. And so not necessarily building a super intense, thorough foundation for heart change and our neediness and the sanctification process, where those other books mostly do that. This particular book, I know counselors, if you are a counselor, this has been used to encourage counselees to really, start putting the needs of others before their own needs, right? In appropriate situations, of course, but to really take that step to be engaged in the body of Christ in the context of the local church. And so this particular book does a really great job of making that practical, quick to read, short chapters just for the day. Or, you could, I guess, work on one for a week, but I think it's meant to kind of be a daily exhortation. It's probably a book, if you do work through it, you'll find yourself, okay, here I go again. I need to go through this, and until it starts to become more habitual, right? Until the Spirit just begins to make us even more mindful of the different ways that we can engage in one another ministry in our families, with our neighborhood, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our church. So I will go ahead and click that one for you too. Have you read this? If you're watching, is this something that has been on your I gotta get this book list? Maybe you've heard good things about it. What have you heard? So please do let me know. And also, if there are any books, because we only have one more left to share. I'm going really super fast this week. Golly, maybe I should take a breath and have a drink of water. I can't believe it's only been 10 minutes. No, wait a minute. Yeah, it has been 10 minutes. Wow. Well, it'll be a little bit shorter today. So that's just fine. I'd love to hear from you. If you have books that you recommend in this particular topic that you've read that have been very encouraging to you, I would love to hear what those books are, because this is just my favorite. I'm not necessarily saying that these are the only books, and I'm not saying that they're the best in terms of They've won awards and the industry standard is to buy these books. I'm just saying that these are my recommendations, and I'm sure I'll read more in the future, and then maybe those recommendations will change. But based on what I've read so far, these are my top picks. I'd love to hear yours. And Kim says that this particular book is on her wish list. Well, Kim, you are already leading the giveaway, so perhaps this will be the one that you get to choose if you want. So we'll see how that goes here as we end the broadcast in just a little bit. So the very last one I want to share with you, I'm super excited about, and it is, you probably have seen this book cover if you are in the biblical counseling arena or circles, spheres of influences. But this is called Saints, Sufferers, and Sinners: Loving Others as God Loves Us by Michael Endlet. And this is the only book I have in hand because, again, you may be new and have no idea who I am, but our family recently had a house fire, actually about 2 months ago now. So all of my library of books, I mean, if I had them, I would be able to show all of these recommendations to you, but instead I have to count on graphics to be able to communicate what my recommendations are. But this one was spared. This was in a bag in my car when the fire happened, and so it did not get smelly and stinky and smoky, and so I have it here to show you. But that's not exactly why I wanted to show it to you, but I'm excited to share this because I just spoke with Michael Endlet yesterday for the podcast, and oh my gosh, it was a great conversation. He was so nice, and I was so nervous at first. Not when I actually got him on the call, but like the anticipation of speaking to him, because I just respect his work so much, and it has personally ministered to me in very profound ways. And so I'm super stoked to be able to share that conversation with you. I don't remember when I have it scheduled, but I think I'm going to move it up in the schedule because I think it's probably later in the summer, and I don't want to keep that locked away for very long. This particular book is very, very good at helping us to engage other people with a perspective, a biblical perspective, but he offers the 3 broad biblical categories that is true about every believer. Every believer that you're going to meet in one another ministry, in your church, in your family, whatever context it is, every single believer you're going to meet this is true. They are a saint, they are a sufferer, they are a sinner. And I was talking to Mike yesterday. I said, Mike, I have to say that when I type out this title, I always, for some reason, want to lead out with sinners, right? And I asked him, I won't tell you the answer. I won't tell you the answer and give it away. But I did ask him if that arrangement of saints, sufferers, and sinners was intentional. And he said yes. So you will have to stay tuned to find out on the podcast why it is that he intentionally stacked them in that way. It makes a lot of sense to me, and I think it's super hope-giving and informative, just instructive even for how we engage other people in one another care. And so again, he's offering in this book 3 biblical categories that all believers fit into, and then bringing to our attention how do we engage people and meet them where they're at instead of just only focusing on one particular component, only focusing and viewing this person we're trying to care for as a sinner, or only focusing on all of their suffering, but not really giving much hope because we're missing some of the transformation that comes through, that comes through suffering and also being a saint, and some of the all the different dynamics that they kind of interweave together. And he even talks about at the very end of the book, what are the dangers of overemphasizing one of these broad biblical categories where we are really only engaging with people as sinners, especially in our counseling care. What is the danger of only engaging people as saints in our counseling care? And so this particular book, even though I think it's very applicable to lay people or to everyday people who just want to know how to love their neighbor better and engage people in a God-glorifying way, in the way that God loves us, I would say this particular book is more specific to counseling context. So how can we, as people who are involved in counseling ministry, use the way that God views us and interacts with us in these three biblical categories all throughout the scriptures. How can we look to him and model our care after his care when it comes to these particular three truths, these foundational truths about our identity and who we are in Christ. And so again, super great book. Here you can see it's not terribly long. There's not really reflection questions. This, I would be able to go into more detail in the other books if I had them, but since I have this one, there's not really reflection questions or anything like that. So not to say that you couldn't use it for a small group study, but it's just not necessarily built for that. And not really much in the index. So a lot of books that I've recommended before usually have questions, usually have something in the appendix, like a chart or whatever, but this book does not. Not to say that that's bad, but just to let you know what's in it. And so I would definitely recommend, if this one has not already been on your radar, I promise you it will be an encouragement to read and totally even maybe influence the way that you approach people in the midst of their mess. And I think all of these resources, I've recommended 5 already, all of them are going to accomplish just that for you. I mean, you could get all of these books if you have not ever read them, and you would have a lot to chew on for the rest of the year if this is what you kind of made your reading schedule to be. And so let me go ahead, for those of you who are just joining us, my name is Christine Chappell. This is Top 5 Friday, where I'm sharing my top 5 favorite books on one another ministry. We have a giveaway going on to somebody who is watching. It could be you, but we have Kim, who has been the most engaged person on this video, and so chances are it's Kim who's going to be able to choose from one of the 5 books I have shared in this broadcast and win it. I'll give it to her as a gift. I'd like to be able to start doing that every time I do a Top 5 Friday, and so maybe next time I'll be able to offer more than one book. We shall see, but today it's just one. And so let me just recap real fast. We had Instruments in the Redeemer's Hands by Paul David Tripp. We had Loving Messy People by Scott Mail. We had Side by Side, Walking with Others in Wisdom and Love by Ed Welch. We had Sinners. See, I did it again. I don't know why I keep doing that. It's so awful. Saints, Sufferers, and Sinners by Michael Emlet, and 31 Ways to Be a One Another Christian. So those are my top 5 books that I'm recommending this week. I don't have a graphic showing all 5 of them. In fact, you may be watching and noticing that my graphics are different this week. I watched the replay last week, and even though I had tested those graphics a bunch, I watched them. I said, I don't like how that looks at all. So hopefully this look is better. Let me know what you think if you noticed a difference. I'm hoping that this makes sense. And also I wanted to try out some of the neat production tools like you see down here. There's a little ticker going across the screen. I don't know if that's cool. And then just the graphics that we have for today. So I also want to let you know, I have a few bonus recommendations, not necessarily books, but links I want to send to you. Before I do, I realized that I think I've included all the links, but let me go ahead. This one is for Emlet's book. We have Stuart Scott, Loving Messy People. I did not include the Welch book Side by Side, so let me copy and paste that too. So in the comments, you have links to all the books that I'm recommending. You can come back if you're watching the replay. You can go to Facebook and see those comments. Or if you're watching on my website, then you're watching this replay on my website. Then on the page you're watching this replay on, I have included the links to these recommended resources on that webpage. In fact, if you missed last week's Top 5 Friday, where I shared my top 5 Christian books on the topic of depression, you can go to my blog. My blog is right here, christinemchappell.com. You can go there, click the blog in the menu, and that will show you the most recent Top 5 Friday that I did, which was on the topic of depression. You can watch that, and links to those recommended resources are on that page as well. And so, yeah, hopefully we'll be putting these up once a week and starting to get a nice little collection going for you guys. And so I think now what I'd like to do is share with you the bonus material. So I already shared a podcast episode, that I did with Scott Mail last year. But also there was a Hope and Help live that I did with Scott Mail and also um, Josh Steffens. And so that was Hope and Help for One Another Care. And it was broadcast on Facebook Live and turned into a podcast. So if you are interested, you can, that's a free resource. All of the audios that I share are free resources. And so you are welcome to stream them from anywhere in the world as long as you have internet access. And also, I want to let you know too about a really neat opportunity coming up at IBCD that I am hosting. And we at IBCD have probably, I think, 3 times now have done a segment called Ask the Counselor. And Ask the Counselor is an opportunity for you, the viewer, the audience, to send in a question, a counseling question in regards to a particular topic. And so the theme for this upcoming Ask the Counselor at the end of April is starting a soul care ministry. And the guest for that Ask the Counselor broadcast, we actually have 2. And so you're going to be seeing Jim Neuheiser and you're going to be seeing Scott Mail on that. And I'll be interviewing the both of them on the topic of starting a soul care ministry. And so I'm sharing that link with you in the comments because I want to give you the opportunity to ask a question. If you want to submit your question for us to consider asking Jim and Scott during the broadcast, click that link. It's ibcd.org/ask the counselor. The information is there, and you can type in some fields, whatever your question is. You can send in more than one. That's okay. I'm not going to guarantee that we will answer all the questions, but we will go through as a team and pick the ones that we feel like are most applicable. Perhaps probably try our best to answer all of them, but I just don't want to make a promise and then have somebody miss out on getting an answer. So do me a favor, check that out. And if you know people in ministry, people who are currently involved in soul care or in one another ministry of some kind, and they have questions, you may even consider sharing that link with them and saying, hey, here's an opportunity to ask Jim Neuheiser and Scott Mail, who are leaders in the biblical counseling movement, for some help. Give them a case scenario, or not a case scenario, but because this one is particular to starting a soul care ministry. The other ones have been kind of case scenarios, but this one, how do we get, sometimes I've heard questions like, how do we even get the idea of soul care ministry introduced to our church leadership? And that can be, some churches are not open to that particular discussion. So how can we begin that dialogue? What does it look like practically even to get a church body, or at least people in the church, equipped to participate in one another care? And so again, great opportunity to ask questions, ibcd.org/ask the counselor. And then the last bonus material I'm going to give you is, I did mention IBCD's newest training, and that released a couple of weeks ago, I think now, Intro to Messy Care and Discipleship. If you are interested in learning more about that resource, there is, again, digital access to the videos. So Kim in Ukraine, you can have access to these training videos, and also you can use that to even work through in a small group study or a small group setting. But you can check out the information there, ibcd.org/messy, and maybe that will be helpful to you. So I know I have given a lot of information during this broadcast. Gosh, in only 23 minutes. That was fast, but I did think I rambled last week. And so, those books were just so meaningful to me. Not that these aren't, but this is just a little bit different of a topic. And so, yeah, my top 5 I shared. And I think we're ready to choose the giveaway winner. And to be honest, I think we all know it's Kim. And so, Kim, I need to get connected with you. I don't know if you can maybe send my page a message, the Christine M. Chapel page, a message, and let me know your email address. That's probably the best way, and also which book you would like to choose. And so I posted all the links to the books in the comments. You don't have to make a decision right this instant, but go back and let me know, send my page a message, and I will get, I'll do my, I think I can gift a book, an ebook, right? I've never done that before, but I'm going to find out. So let's go ahead and make that happen. Kim, thank you so much for watching and for engaging. I really super appreciate it. And I also want to let you, before I let you go, Okay, so Kim is the winner. Congratulations. But also, I am going to be out of town next Friday at the Gospel Coalition Women's Conference in Indianapolis. And so I'm not going to be doing Top 5 Friday next week, but I have already scheduled the next one for the following Friday. And that Top 5 Friday will cover my top 5 Christian books on the topic of grief. And so I am going to be connecting with the publishers of the books that I've chosen, and maybe I'll be able to give away copies of all of them. I don't know. We'll see. We'll be praying about it. We'll see if those doors open. But definitely we'll be doing another giveaway next week, so you'll want to join us for that. And lastly, if you are watching this replay again, join us live if you are able to. You can subscribe to my emails. There it is. You can subscribe to my emails and know when I'm going live instead of kind of in passing. Maybe I'll see it on Facebook, maybe I won't. If you subscribe to my emails at christinemchapel.com/email, then you will get on Wednesdays, I send them out, and you'll get a notification as to the topic of the next Top 5 Friday. And then you'll also get the previous Top 5 Friday broadcast sent to your email so that if you missed it, then you know, okay, well, here's the link and I can go watch it. So you don't necessarily lose out if you can't join us live, but you do lose out on the chance to have your comments on the screen like and also to tell me about your favorites. I want to hear from you. And then also I'm giving away books during the live. So you have to be on the live in order to have a chance to get a book. All right. Well, I will go ahead and let y'all go. If you are just hopping on, you've missed it. I went so fast today, but it's okay. You can watch the replay here on Facebook. You can go to my blog. I don't know if I'll have a chance to put it up today, but it's available to you to watch. And you just came on the tail end of a possible giveaway win, but Kim is our winner today. And so we'll give Kim one more. I have an audio where I can do applause. Oh, I don't know how to do that yet. I'm going to learn. So next time, Kim or whoever is watching who wins the giveaway, next time I'm going to cue an applause sound. I don't know where it is. I still am learning this production software. So in any case, I'm thankful that you joined me today. Have a great rest of your Friday morning. Hopefully this was fun, and I will be coming back again April 16th, Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Pacific Time in the morning for my top 5 Christian books on the topic of grief. So, all right. Thank you so much for watching today, friends. We'll see you very, very soon.